In the few moments left, and this will probably carry over into the bonus portion for our subscribers, I want to mention this scum bastard here in Georgia who is running for governor. I'm talking about David Perdue, who was defeated when he ran for the Senate. Defeated by, was it John Ossoff that beat him? I think it was. Anyway, Greg Sargent, writing at the Post, points out that when the history of Donald Trump era is written, a special place should be reserved for David Perdue. Now, why would Greg Sargent say that? I mean, it's just one race in one of the 50 states. Well, that's because David Perdue has just, I mean, he couldn't have debased himself more if he had gotten on his knees before Trump and unzipped Trump's fly. I mean, he couldn't have. And he embarrassed and debased himself more thoroughly than anyone alive in his attempt to defeat the conservative Christian fascist governor here in Georgia, Brian Kemp, in the Republican primary. And David Perdue is on track for a humiliating loss. Let me be clear. I don't like Brian Kemp. I refer to him as a fascist Christian. That may be a little bit too strong. I know he's a Christian. I don't know if he's a fascist Christian or not. But I do know this. When Brian Kemp was Secretary of State in Georgia, the son of a bitch was instrumental in removing close to 500,000 names from voter rolls in this country. In this state. Arbitrarily, just get rid of him, which allowed Kemp to become governor. Under different circumstances, I would say, go down, Kemp, fuck you. Let Perdue win the primary. But Perdue is not even human. There you go again, Mike. Well, you know what I mean. He is such a fascist Nazi bastard, David Perdue. But a new poll from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution shows that Kemp is kicking Perdue's ass by an astonishing 53 to 27% among likely voters. And our primary is just a couple of weeks away, the Republican primary. Now, if Kemp clears 50%, he wins outright without a runoff. And, of course, Perdue is being backed 10,000% by the orange vomit, Donald Trump. And Kemp has so debased himself, so turned himself inside out. He's such a fucking whore. No offense to sex workers, but Perdue is such a whore that he's willing, on the first debate that they had, I think, Sunday, 2 days ago, here in Georgia, between Kemp and Perdue opened up by saying, let me be very clear, this election was stolen from Donald Trump and from the voters in Georgia. I mean, that's his opening. Now, analysts are somehow trying to say that this is evidence of Trump's losing influence among Republican voters, but something bigger is at stake here, as Greg Sargent points out. A decisive win by Brian Kemp would show that Republican officials can abide by the integrity of election losses, which is what happened in the Republican Party here, and live to tell the tale. That is, without immediately seeing their careers implode in the next GOP primary, which is what Brian Kemp is hoping for. And my personal feeling, I wouldn't vote for Brian Kemp unless he was running against, well, David Perdue. And if I were registered as a Republican, which I am not, but I think Brian Kemp is going to kick David Perdue's ass. And there would be no celebration of that fact on my part, but there would be no tears lost when that occurs on my part either. I mean, this is like the least evil of two evils, okay? And Perdue has built his entire primary campaign around the idea that in some vague sense, Kemp betrayed Republican voters here by saying fuck you to Trump's pressure to help steal the 2020 election. And Trump has endorsed Perdue and is using him like, I don't know, using him like a mule skinner uses a goddamn donkey. He's using Perdue for the only purpose of trying to oust Kemp as payback for that, what is Greg Sargent calls it, heresy. The heresy of telling the truth where it concerned the election. And okay, Kemp did that. And we had 3 audits here. One, a hand count of the ballots cast in Georgia, which showed clearly that Trump had lost and that the 2 Democratic candidates for Senate had won. 3 fucking recounts. But in spite of that, David Perdue has turned himself into Donald Trump's bitch. In the worst sense of that word, just turned himself into somebody who kneels when Trump says, "On your knees, fucker." And Perdue can only say, "Yes, sir. Was that fast enough, sir? Do you want me to get up and kneel again real quick, sir? I've never seen anything like this. Well, I probably have. But, it's just what David Perdue is. And he's a cousin of the former governor here, Sonny Perdue. Yeah, Sonny Perdue, who is as dishonest as the day is long. Runs in the family. In so many of these fascist Christian families, it's like a genetic predisposition to being a son of a bitch. And they all, fulfill their destinies, don't they? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.